7.4%.
That's pretty good.
Pretty good on an absolute standard, but this is China we're talking about. Now, how discouraged or encouraged? This is obviously where everyone thought, so they can pat themselves on the back and say, we nailed the number. But the number, is that now, should I be running around, trying to put out my clothes? Are they on fire with this number? Are we worried about China's future?
Well, for the third quarter GDP growth of 7.4%, I don't think it's that bad. Well, in China's 5-year plan, they said that they wanted to be 7%.
Right.
True, this is the lowest quarterly growth since the early 2009.
Right.
So it sounds pretty bad.
Yeah.
But I think the interesting thing is Beijing isn't too alarmed about it.
But aren't you also worried, how much do we trust this number? It seems like these numbers, there's a lot of more art than science in some cases, these numbers. It's a big developing country. It's hard to really pin down the stuff. Plus, they have to worry about the psychological impact of making these numbers very true. So I think that there's a guidance factor. So we know that they're saying the economy is slowing. Watch out. Don't get your expectations up. What do you think? Do you think this is?
Well, that's exactly true that you were saying,
right.
Because GDP doesn't really matter a lot to individual people like you and me.
Yeah.
What matters is whether people are still having jobs, whether they manage to consume.
What's happening on the job front? That's the crucial question. Is unemployment rising or not?
Well, employment is not rising, but it's
right.
not really falling at a big rate either.
Right.
So anecdotally, we're not seeing the newspaper headlines of people not being able to find jobs and going back to their hometown.
Yeah.
Actually, we see like Foxconn, which is Apple's contractor, not being able to recruit enough people, so they got underage interns working for them. So
Surely that was accidental.
So if employment is not a huge problem, and consumption, we just heard from the China Golden Week about how many people are traveling for leisure and buying things, that doesn't really sound like a terrible economic picture.
Right, but let's talk about this debate that you alluded to just a second ago. Do you think that the big stimulus is coming, or have we already seen everything we're going to get?
I don't think we will see a big stimulus coming.
Right.
Definitely not ahead of the leadership transition early next year. And even the current government who engineered that 2008-2009 big stimulus, well, Wen Jiabao recently said the economy is in pretty good shape.
Right.
And if you look into the details of the economic picture, it seems that the necessary rebalancing is happening.
And that's a good thing in the long run.
Yeah.
But it means more short-term pain, right?
Yeah, well, it means short-term pay for the growth rate if people are still fixated about having a high growth.
Right.
But more important is people are feeling fine, they have jobs, they can consume and all that. So it's not necessarily paying other than foreign investors who are trading on China numbers, who are trading on things like US dollar and Australian dollar, and maybe bad for commodity exporters like Australia, because sectors like steel and chemicals are really the ones that are suffering most.
Right. So we should just don't worry, be happy. The short term maybe get a little darker for the next quarter, and then in the long term we're hoping for a greater rebalancing, restructuring, and longer term health in China.
Well, the boom days of China is behind us,
right.
So we have to accept that, but it's not. So no need to feel paranoid about Chinese growth falling off the cliff either.
Don't feel paranoid. All right, thanks.